Your children's blood is blood, but our children's blood is water. We're going to show you.
Well, you know what, Scott? That's all true, but there's one difference in the last few years. We're actually making progress with this argument. So for the last few years, up until just a few years ago, there were a few of us in the wilderness, essentially, trying to explain this phenomenon and showing the link with foreign occupation. What's happened in the last few years is that this is now just beginning, and I say just beginning, to move into the political mainstream. If your listeners will go on the C-Post website, our Chicago Project on Security and Terrorism, you will see, or if you just Google, you'll see that a week ago, on October 12th, we had a huge conference on Capitol Hill. I don't mean in Washington. I mean on Capitol Hill with 300 people. You can watch the tape of that conference on C-SPAN. The conference was called Cutting the Fuse after our book. We gave away 300 copies of our book to many members of Congress, and we had a congressman, Brian Baird, introducing our conference. We had the head of the 9/11 Commission, Governor Thomas Kean, at our conference as a keynote speaker. We had the head of the Navy, the top person in the Navy, Admiral Gary Ruffhead, as a keynote speaker at our conference. This is now beginning for the first time to move to the mainstream. And why is that the case? It's the case because the data, that issue of the data that I've been talking about on your program, is now getting richer and more robust, and the stronger the linkage, the more data we have, the more the linkage is absolutely apparent to all but the most diehard on the other side, that there's a strong linkage between foreign occupation and suicide attack, just like with smoking and lung cancer. We don't think smoking and lung cancer, that linkage is a political argument anymore. Well, we used to in the 40s and 50s. Now we take that as an empirical connection, a fact. That's what's beginning to actually happen in Washington. What would help the cause, what would help the movement, is more public education. And the best way to do that is to learn more about the actual data and the linkage, which is why we did the new book, Cutting the Fuse.
Yeah. All right. Well, now go ahead and plug the book, because clearly Dying to Win, I promise everyone here, Dying to Win is cover to cover reading. You got to do it. But so tell me about how this is different and better, and other than just updated.
In Dying to Win, we looked at suicide terrorism from 1980 to 2003, and that was 300 suicide attacks. Okay. Since 2003, we've had over 1,800 more suicide attacks. We could have easily blown away.
That's the whole book right there.
And what's powerful about this is that they're even more, not just 95%. Now it's 97% of that much greater number, foreign occupation, and triggered explicitly by the onset of that foreign occupation. And this is now information that is so powerful and so credible that we have highly important members of the establishment, again, the heads of the 9/11 Commission, Nobel Prize winners, the top admiral in the Navy, actually reading this, looking at the data, having their staffs look at this, try to pull this apart. And these are people who are not prone to agree with this, to say the least. These are people who are coming to it with a skeptical eye, and nonetheless, they are finding it incredibly impressive. And that's what's so important about the new book. The new book isn't just an argument. It's just not another voice in the wilderness. It's showing this powerful connection, like smoking and lung cancer, connection which even real skeptics would have to, at least look twice at to say, my gosh, is it really that close of a connection? Well, that's a way to actually begin the movement to move beyond the war on terror.
Sure, and the whole thing is that it just shows right there implicitly that, it wasn't Islam at all. It's, people with political motives want to say that it's Islam because they want an excuse for more war. And really, in a way, Bob, your book, if it was done for the military, could simply be how to guarantee a long war, how to continue to make enemies to fight, how to justify invading Kazakhstan next.
There's a lot of truth to what you say, Scott, and what I'm trying to tell you is that even folks who start with those priors, who start from those positions, you show them the information in Cutting the Fuse. If listeners would just simply get a copy of Cutting the Fuse and send it to the biggest skeptic, that is, the people who most believe in the war on terror, who most believe it's Islamic fundamentalism, I'll tell you, it would be very, very interesting to see how far this movement could spread.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you very much for your work. I can't wait to get the book, and we'll do this interview again in detail. But I really do appreciate it. Everybody go look at Foreign Policy. It's the occupation, stupid. You can find the link at antiwar.com today. And again, the book is at Amazon.com right now. Cutting the Fuse, the explosion of global suicide terrorism and how to stop it. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott.